Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at Obscure. Obscure was developed by Hydrovision Entertainment and originally published by Dreamcatcher Interactive. However, after Hydrovision shut down in 2012, some former employees went on to form Mighty Rocket Studios, which now serves as the current publisher of the game on platforms like Steam. The game follows a group of 5 American students trapped in Leafmore High School after one of their friends goes missing. As they search for their friend, they encounter dangerous entities and uncover the school's dark secrets hidden just beneath their feet. Obscure has an almost violently early 2000s aesthetic, from the character design to the opening song that plays during the intro. In the Steam version, the track is American Beautiful by Elric Ferez. However, the original release featured Still Waiting by Sum 41. Both songs perfectly capture that 2000s vibe. Standing in contrast is the school, which looks more like an old private school. It's a place you would normally see school uniforms as opposed to low-rise jeans and bucket hats. The choice for the setting isn't accidental, and we'll figure out the reason for that later. Oh yeah, did you know this game features co-op? These days, almost every game has a co-op mode, but back in the day, that didn't happen often, so it was pretty innovative at the time. Now, as far as I'm aware, this title is available on Windows PCs, PlayStation 2, and the original Xbox. So if you want to play this gem from 2004, Steam or emulation is your best bet, unless you can find a working copy and a working console. Now, with all that said, let's dive into Obscure. See what I mean about violently 2000s? That cutscene introduces 4 of the characters, with the 5th being introduced shortly after, when we take control of Kenny.
Hello?
Kenny, you were supposed to call. Did you forget about our date?
Don't know why Ashley didn't get a cool intro, so let's fix that. Much better.
See ya, baby.
By the way, while you were watching that intro, someone ganked Kenny's bag. In a moment of questionable decision-making, he follows the thief into a hidden basement. A hidden basement that no one knew about until now. We only make good choices here. Before climbing down the ladder, he conveniently finds a gun and a flashlight. Now, while it's a little concerning that there's just a gun lying around, cute distasteful joke about American schools and guns, this is actually a setup for the game's combining mechanic. There is no other purpose to this combining element, but you know what? I'm fine with that. We don't need complicated systems here. Plus, I get to put a flashlight on a gun. I can think of many games that mechanic would be useful for. The flashlight does more than just light up dark areas. It also weakens enemies. You'll get a chance to try this out when you save a guy named Dan from a cage in the basement. As you try to leave, enemies spawn, and it turns out these creatures are highly sensitive to light. I decided to take the path of least resistance and just run while Dan kept them occupied. Unfortunately for Kenny, there's no escape tonight. He's locked in before he can make it out. The next day, Shannon and Ashley meet up for some girl talk and realize that Kenny never showed up at home or for his date.
I'm getting fed up with your brother.
But then, if he wasn't with you, maybe he...
You think that something happened to him?
Meanwhile, Josh nerds out about getting to investigate his friend's disappearance.
Great. My first real investigation.
I hate to break it to you, Josh, but I barely used you in my playthrough. But hey, at least you spent 90% of the game chilling in relative safety. By 6 p.m., the trio meets up in the lunchroom since Kenny still hasn't made an appearance. While they're chatting, the janitor locks up the school, trapping them inside.
It's okay. It's just a janitor.
At this point, we take control of the characters. Each one has a school record, which is essentially a bio for each character. Our girl Ashley is best at defense arms, aka fighting. Shannon takes on the medic role with a nice 25% bonus to healing items. And Josh excels at pointing out clues and needed objects. If you're playing in co-op, a friend can join at this point to control the second character. However, if you're going solo, the second character will be controlled by the computer. Leaving Josh behind to do whatever Josh does, Ashley and Shannon head off to figure out how to escape the school. They engage in some good old property destruction while navigating the locked doors. So naturally, when looking for a missing friend, they head to the bathroom, and when inspecting the vent on the wall, we get a panty shot. Wonderful. Anyway, they eventually crawl through the vent, leading them to the teacher's lounge, which connects to the archives. Now we're finally addressing why this school isn't your typical high school. A couple things stand out in this letter. The financiers, Leonard and Herbert Friedman, and the dates 1899 and 1902. Doesn't sound all that interesting now, but we'll explain some things further down the line. But right now, we'll have our first encounter with the game's enemies outside of the prologue. These little pests are called Mordir, whatever, and they got a thing for biting ankles. And just as I was about to break the window to deal with them, this guy swoops in and steals my glory. That was dramatic. So aside from learning that sunlight is an insta-kill for these monsters, we also learn that Mr. Walden is trapped with us, and is looking a little injured. Probably from all that strenuous activity.
You don't look so great yourself.
And he mentions the name Friedman, which Ashley clarifies as the principal.
Go see Mr. Friedman.
The principal?
We're familiar with that name now, but that just tells us the principal is at least related to the tomb who financed the building of Leafmore High.
He's not much help.
We all know there's more to it than that, and we'll eventually get there. For now, we're gonna head to the courtyard, where Josh will continue to be annoying.
Miss Ashley, what was your reaction when you saw those creatures?
Get lost.
Do you really think you'll get out of here alive?
This is exactly why I leave you behind, bro. Anyway, the courtyard serves as the first main hub, a place where the characters we're not controlling can hang out in relative safety. There's also a nifty little feature that lets you fast travel back to this point so you don't have to retrace your steps if you don't want to.
What are we gonna do now?
Right now, the goal is to find Friedman, but on the way, we run into my guy Stan in one of the classrooms. Up to no good as usual, the little rascal.
Stan, what are you doing here?
Nothing, dog. I'm just editing my notes.
Stan's a pro at lockpicking, able to do it way faster than the others, and without needing a tool to do it. It comes in super handy when you've got enemies chasing you and you need to get out fast. If you're playing co-op though, his skills might not be as essential as you may or may not have someone competent enough to watch your back, unlike the computer-controlled allies. But for us solo players, Stan's a solid character to keep around.
What? You better quit jerking me.
In the same room, we find several news articles detailing the disappearances of multiple students from Leafmore High. Strange disappearance. The Leafmore High School is once again at the heart of the controversy. In effect, Greg Anderson, a second-year student, disappeared on Monday night. It was after classes that his friends in the dormitory notified his absence. He had gone to the sickbay after feeling unwell, and it was there that he was seen for the last time. Controversy at Leafmore. But what are the police doing? When will they order the closing of the schools? Said Mr. Flint when coming out of the police headquarters after the disappearance of his son, Harry. The answer was not long coming. The principal of the establishment, Mr. Friedman, came this morning to meet journalists. It seems that the furious lunatic wreaking havoc on our premises is only interested in the students staying in the dormitory. We have, therefore, by agreement with the forces of law and order, closed access until order returns. Closure of the Leafmore dormitory 3 years after the last disappearances at Leafmore, none of which have been solved, Herbert Friedman, principal of the high school, officially announced that everything was back to normal. Although the perpetrator of these crimes is still loose, it seems that the closing of the dormitory calmed the ardor of the mental patient responsible for these disappearances. It seems Principal Friedman is a shady fellow. The man has dozens of students go missing from his school, blames it on an unknown mental patient, and it conveniently gets swept under the rug. I guess he paid the right amount to the right people to make that controversy go away. I should also mention that Principal Friedman is Herbert Friedman. It's possible that was also his father's name, but I have a hunch there's more to it than that. Ooh, new baseball bat. You're out of order! Oh, great. Now we've got even more dangerous monsters to deal with. Trying to take these things down with melee weapons is a pain, especially because the hitboxes can be pretty wonky. So there's always the option to run, but that comes with the risk of whoever's following you getting left behind to take the brunt of the damage. And sometimes the enemies will just block your path, so running isn't always an option. It gets easier to handle once we get better weapons, more health kits, and monster energy drinks. But keep in mind, any of the characters can die. You can still continue the game as long as at least one survives, which adds a little bit of replayability. Now, in a classroom off this hallway, we'll find something that starts to explain what these monsters are. The Mortophilia comes in the form of ciphers. Classification appears difficult. This endemic plant allows microscopic buds to appear which do not appear destined to form a new plant, but to possibly generate other leaves. The parasites and the spider-like appearance explain its capacity to propagate in an excessive manner, hypothesis verified by the presence of an oversized sucker ensuring proliferation. Detailed examination of the buds. The bud shows a stupefying germinative power. Hundreds of lines at the neck confirm that the species has a phenomenal longevity. Cutting the xylems. The ducts are completely dry, no trace of humidity. How are these chlorophyll cells irrigated? The black substance released comes from glands located on the root. It is poisonous to its biological environment. During a darkness, light, darkness sequence, variations of dioxygen concentration are observed. Whether DCPIP is present or not, the plant is particularly sensitive to exposure. It fears the light. The plant transgresses the rules of phytology. Molecular analysis showed genetic associations that enable the Mortophilia to be defined as a non-recombinant isolate at the genetic level. This means that it does not have a sexual process for exchanging genetic material, but a parasexual one. I attempted an experiment during which a transient diploid node was formed. In this node, mitotic crossover was produced at low frequency. The diploid node itself haploided through the loss of chromosomes. Using this system, two distinct species could exchange genetic material. Conclusion. It is certain that the Mortophilia possesses abnormal properties. Notwithstanding its incredible longevity, the plant is particularly receptive to crossbreeding. Research must be continued and the genotype of these cells must be examined in detail. It all started with a plant species called Mortophilia. These plants propagate quickly, seem to survive without water, and have an incredibly long lifespan. The black substance they release is poisonous to the surrounding environment, and the plant thrives in darkness, being particularly sensitive to light. And apparently, Mortophilia is really good at crossbreeding.
Kiss me, fat boy!
However, this doesn't explain how a strange plant turned into an enraged ambulatory monster bent on destruction. That's a mystery for later, as we've just found some acid that we'll need to break into a locked door upstairs that's a little too tough for the baseball bat. Upstairs, we encounter the zombie kids. These poor bastards are probably some of those missing students who have definitely been experimented
What are you
on.
waiting for? Start fighting!
We also find Mr. Walden's bag, which contains a lot of documentation that we can't read. However, it does have a compass needle, one of two we'll need for an upcoming puzzle. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there's a commemorative plaque of an African expedition in one of the classrooms, listing the latitude and longitude. Remember those numbers. Since both of my main characters are pretty injured and I have 0 health kits, it's time for Josh to finally get his one moment in the spotlight for the entire game.
Let's move!
First, I find a room I missed, which actually has a better weapon, and a flashlight. We're definitely gonna need that.
Go to hell!
In Freeman's office, there's an answering machine with a few messages from the school nurse, Miss Wixon.
Herbert,
Jesus, Josh, personal space. But yeah, sounds like Miss Wixon is in trouble. But she's just gonna have to hold tight for now, cause we got some snooping to do. Further in the office, there's a picture of the Friedman brothers, twins. And judging by the sepia tone, they must be very old. Things get even stranger when we access the safe behind a puzzle-locked map. Remember that compass needle and the coordinates? The second needle is on Friedman's desk. We just pop them into the map, adjust the needles to the correct positions indicated by the latitude and longitude, and bingo! We're in.
It works!
Inside, we find a letter addressed to Herbert from someone named Elizabeth. My dear Herbert, I'm writing you in secret. Leonard would leave me if he knew I was meddling in his work. You are his twin brother, and sometimes it seems to me that you understand him better than I. That is why I would like you to speak to him. We quarreled last night. He is completely obsessed with his research, and I fear he will go too far. He wants to attempt the experiment on himself, I am certain. You know him, he's capable of it. That would be foolish. The subjects treated are only stable after 3 weeks. There may be secondary effects that appear much later. Please, try to reason with him. Yours, Elizabeth. This is yet more evidence to prove the brothers were dabbling in something dangerous, and at least one of them was not being appropriately cautious about it. Also in the safe is a VHS tape labeled Subject 37 Part 1. It either has to do with this experiment, or he was secretly working with Dr. Ortmeyer. Upon exiting the office, the ground violently shakes. Things are getting worse by the minute, but Nancy Drew wouldn't let some little old earthquake stop her, and it won't stop us either. On to the library. Here we run into another one of those zombie students. Social anxiety gets the best of him, and he freaks out on us.
This is what you get for sticking your big schnoz where it doesn't belong.
These guys are a little more deformed looking than the last, possibly hinting that they're in a different phase of evolution? Either way, they get dispatched, and we can finally start searching these rooms. Taking a scribbled over note to the projector reveals a numbered code, which opens a safe in another room. Inside, we find another note, this time addressed to both of the brothers. Dear Leonard and Herbert, I am writing to you as a friend. I've just come out of the Seattle conference where your book, Eternal Life is Possible, had an explosive effect. Your discoveries totally contradict the theories of Dr. Leon Korsenberg, and I expect an unfavorable reaction from the council. You have virulent detractors who fear that your research is immoral and cast a slur on the entire scientific community. I have analyzed the file. Your theory certainly goes against the first law of medical ethics. You'll understand that without the support of reputation, it will have no other destiny than sinking into oblivion. And sadly, I do not have sufficient weight to prevent that. You may find salvation outside of the scientific community, you know. I fear the sanctions may even be taken against you, and I cannot advise you strongly enough to locate your work in a safe place. I remain, my dear friends, yours sincerely, your loyal friend, Walt Carradine. Looks like the Friedman brothers didn't have enough clout to get away with breaking the do no harm part of medical ethics. It's pretty clear that the Friedman brothers were working with this mortophilia plant that had some life-extending effects, something akin to immortality. I mean, they could have researched lobsters, then we'd have lobster monsters and this gang would be called Far Harbor. Speaking of the Friedmans,
Mr. Friedman, the school.
Why are you still
I feel like I'm watching one of those old, badly translated kung fu movies.
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it!
Go right now and see the janitor. He'll let you out. I'll tell him you're coming. And don't let me see you back until tomorrow morning.
But the creatures.
I'll take care of everything. The best thing you can do for now is to get out of here.
He's right. Night has fallen, and that's only going to make fighting these shade race creatures all the more dangerous. The news gets worse though. Poor Mr. Garrison has a fatal encounter just when we approach the janitor's door.
Mr. Garrison? You okay?
Dude must have been part of a militia because he is loaded with a shotgun and enough ammo to take out a full-grown emu. That, or he doubles as the security guard, since there's a small room with the security monitors rolling. At least I hope so.
What? It's the nurse, Miss Wixon.
The video shows Miss Wixon. Looks like she's still alive and kicking. We should probably go rescue her, but before we head out, we still have a couple tapes to watch.
It's Friedman. He's locking the door behind him, the bastard.
Ah, so it seems it was Herbert Friedman himself who led Kenny into the basement and locked him in. Not really a big surprise at this point, but we also learned that Walden went down there sometime afterward and ran out with those monsters hot on his heels. He's the reason all the monsters are infesting the school now. Good job, doofus.
He's the one who set them loose.
Oh, don't forget about the tape labeled Subject 37.
Hey, it's Kenny.
As far as the tape shows, he's still alive, though he seems to be locked up in a prison cell. He should be safe for now, unlike this chick. Did she stay after school too? Has she just been chilling in here the whole time? Well, guess it doesn't matter because she got by this disgusting fly-looking ceiling crawler. These guys aren't too tough though, just watch out because they can grab you. If your companion's controlled by the computer, they'll sure take their sweet time shooting it to free you. This area and the connected room are full of plant monsters, which can continue spawning indefinitely until we get the lights turned back on. That means facing one of these guys again to grab the fuse we need. But this time, we have a shotgun, and it makes short work of that lumbering brute. This also means Miss Wixon will open the door for us.
Do you know where he is?
Kenny. Oh, another one.
What do you mean another one?
Oh boy.
He's the maniac who kidnapped Kenny?
It's Leonard.
Leonard, that name rings a bell. She's totally traumatized.
After ransacking the office, we find the crank that was missing back in the archives room. Alright Josh, your 15 minutes are up. Go chill by the fountain or something. Going through that hidden door in the archives leads us to find a film reel labeled Archive 23. Don't think a VHS player will work for this one though. We'll need to find a film projector. We also find some pictures showing the detailed network of tunnels under the school, and these photos are dated a little over a century ago. Seems like the underground was built the same time the school was, meaning this wasn't an addition, it was planned from the start and not mentioned on any of the records we've seen so far. I'm gonna have to start calling Principal Friedman Principal Shade. Once we leave the archives, we run into Mr. Walden.
What are you doing?
I'm looking for Friedman.
He's acting all in a rush and seems to be looking for Friedman. Whatever it is he's doing, he doesn't want any help, which is weird. What are you hiding, Mr. Teacher Man?
No.
He's not telling, but he does give us the theater keys.
Here.
Thanks. Hey, don't go.
Inside the theater are photos of the Friedman brothers covering the walls. After examining them in close detail, Stan recognizes Principal Friedman in all of them, and comments on how he hasn't aged at all. I believe that confirms our hunch that the Principal Friedman is Herbert Friedman that helped finance the building of the school, helped his brother research immortality, and most likely kidnapped the students to use as test subjects. While that's some pretty dastardly business, I can't help but wonder, where's Leonard? Oh, well that explains that. In the projector room, we can play that film reel we found earlier. It shows Leonard injecting something into himself and then cuts to a shot of his haggard face. Those are some deep, deep wrinkles, my guy. Maybe hit Ashley up. I hear she is starting a skincare MLM.
It's me.
But hold on. Things get even worse when we take the elevator at the back of the theater. What was once a woman is now a bloated, maggot-ridden carcass that will slap the piss out of you if you get too close. She'll also release maggots as a secondary attack, which leaves her vulnerable to damage. After subduing her for good, the students climb a few ladders and end up in the basement, with the elevator now unavailable.
Crap, now we can't go back up.
And the rest of the crew just ended up down here as well. No explanation for that, just boom, there they are. That's weird.
Got it, buddy.
Screams echo in the hallway as Stan and Ashley search for a way out.
What kind of place is this?
In some areas, thick roots grow through the walls and seem to undulate. Eventually, we find ourselves in an area Kenny explored back in the prologue. Looks like one of the captives managed to write a note before it was too late. The note mentions they've gathered proof to bring Friedman down, and that it's locked in the safe in the dorms. It's in here we run into the mega bad boy. These guys hit like a Mack truck, so you gotta unload some serious lead from afar. That's not the only one down here though, but we do find a light grenade, which is an insta-kill for these big guys. I think we can find a max of 3 or 4 light grenades between here and the end of the game, so there's no Parmesan here. Besides the monsters, we also get more information about Leonard's self-experimentation in 1903. January 18th, 1903. Leonard seems to have handled treatment reasonably well. No special symptoms. March 24th. After a few days, his skin is covered with melanoma. The tumors are not metastasizing very much, but their large number is causing a worsening in his general condition. March 30th. The hypersensitivity of the skin to UV radiation and the first lesions resulting from this are similar to xeroderma pigmentosum, an inherited illness. This illness is due to a mutation of the gene that protects against skin cancers. But in theory, this illness is hereditary. April 18th. Henceforth, Leonard will protect himself from the sun, but the damage is done. The light rays have caused an acute reaction to the mortophilia gene inserted into his system. We did not foresee this, because our previous guinea pigs remained in their cages. At present, the entire surface of Leonard's skin is suffering profound mutations. May 25th. The mutations appear to have slowed down. They are, however, spectacular, and I ask myself how he can survive in this condition. The wounds have transformed into scabs that look as though they will remain, like the bark of a tree. The damage to his skeleton and his metabolism appear irreversible. His temporal lobes and his upper members are the most affected parts. June 30th, 1904. His condition has stabilized. His mental condition concerns me as much as the appearance he has taken on, if human appearance can still be spoken of in this case. The only hope to cure him now is to have new guinea pigs who have suffered in the same way in order to test a therapy aimed at eradicating the gene and returning the subject to his initial condition. September 24th, 1926. This research is very long. I will not live long enough to achieve my goal, unless I inject myself with the treatment and remain in the shadows until the serum is discovered. Here it is, folks, the truth of the matter. These two brothers found the mortophilia plant during that African expedition, brought it back with them, and began their immortality research. Leonard was a little too gung-ho about it and experimented on himself, which changed his body and his mind for the worse. Eventually, this led to Herbert changing the direction of the research, looking for a way to reverse his brother's condition. And as we see with the 22-year gap, the research would take longer than Herbert's natural lifespan. Thus, he also injected himself. But with the knowledge his brother's testing provided, he knew not to expose himself to sunlight, as that is the catalyst for the horrible changes. But never mind all that, because just down this ladder, we find Kenny!
Kenny!
Get me out of here. Friedman's on his way.
However, Friedman is still up to his tricks and tosses in a gas grenade to knock everyone out. When they awaken, they find themselves locked up, just like Kenny.
So you've been captured too.
But it turns out Friedman isn't as smart as he thinks, because we find a long hook in one of the cells which Kenny can use to hit a conveniently located switch that opens all the cells at once. After getting all of our stuff back and grabbing some bolt cutters, Kenny and Stan lead the way back to the surface in the safety of the courtyard. We swap out Stan for Shan and have a little brother-sister action.
Wow, I'm ready to rock.
The two of them head back to the nurse only to find that she's had an oopsie. And the game still can't take her seriously.
But you've been
That
infected.
bastard Friedman did it.
Herbert, you've gone too far. You need to find
Friedman
the
has an antidote? Where?
In all fairness, the game's original language was French, so...
How do we get there?
The other entrance.
An entrance in the gardens. A different one?
With Miss Wixon's fate sealed, we're now heading into the home stretch. We've got Kenny back, but they can't just leave. They've all been dosed with the mortophilia gene, and if they don't find a cure, they'll end up just like these poor sods once sunlight hits them.
We've got to find an antidote. I don't feel so good.
The dorms are the next place to search. Recalling an earlier note mentioning a safe here with enough information to bring Friedman down, the group theorizes that there might be something in there to help them find the cure. Along the way to finding this safe, we figure out that the Office of Technology of Congress, in agreement with the scientific community, has decided to expel the Friedmans from the community for life. The cause being that their experiments are deemed inhumane, and the consequences of said research pose an unacceptable risk, ecologically, socially, and ethically. They conclude that there are not enough safeguards to impose against the eugenic temptation foreseen by their hypothesis. Thus, they have decided that no assistance will be allocated to the Friedmans, and their equipment and work will be confiscated and resold. And a commission will be deciding whether or not to close Leafmore High. So basically all of this was for nothing. The Friedmans experimented with things they shouldn't have, suffered the consequences, and now Herbert has gone from trying to extend life to working on undoing the damage done to his brother. It's a tragic case of short-sightedness. Alright, now let's throw the safe down the chimney chute. Sweet, we get a map of the basement, a key, and a look at Alan's logbook.
My name is Alan Gardner, and this is my diary. 26. I've now counted 26 cases of missing persons connected with the school. Strange that the police have never come up with anything about it. Our school was founded in 1902 by twin brothers Herbert and Leonard Friedman. Still our principal. That would mean he's at least 100 years old. I just found the birth certificates. How have they stayed so young for so long? I found this photo of a woman with Herbert, or Leonard. She looks a lot like Ms. Whitson. Photos from Dennis Mary's century. Ms. Whitson and Leonard got married in 1885. Leonard was last seen in 1921. Supposedly died in a plane crash, but they never found his body. I found some articles about Friedman brothers and experiments. Said it'd be so original that beyond 1890, they went on an expedition to Africa to find medicinal plants. They stayed for 6 months and brought back a large number of hitherto unknown varieties. One strange specimen, mortophilia, became the basic subject of their research. Photos of disfigured people and
Well, that neatly tied up all the clues we've come across. The African expedition, the plant, the building of the school, missing students, and the experimentation which led to the creation of the plant monsters. Even confirming that Miss Wixon was married to Leonard, and she most definitely partook in the mortophilia gene, just like Herbert and Leonard. And we've learned something new. There's a door that can be opened with a number of statues located around the school. This gives us our next objective. Back with Stan and Kenny in the library, we find the first few statues and another film reel. As they leave, they run into Walden.
Friedman injected me with the virus. I need the antidote.
There's an antidote? You're sure of that?
Who steals the basement map from Stan? The bastard!
What the hell? Hey, my map! That's my map!
Heading back to the projector room, we can watch a new film reel. It shows both brothers and Miss Wixon in a lab doing research on the mortophilia plant. Conveniently, it also shows the code to the locked gate leading to the gardens. The gardens could be a nice place if it weren't for all the aggressive nightmare creatures. It's a full-on enemy gauntlet, but the last statue is here, so we have to push through. Stan and Kenny emerge from the gardens right where the entrance to the underground is. This time, they find a freaking laser. It's a powerful weapon, but once its charge is gone, it's gone. After dealing with Big Bertha and placing all the statues, Stan flips the switch. But of course, Walden is down here too. In the cutscene right after this, we see Walden take Herbert out and prepare to inject himself with the antidote. It turns out the nosy fool got himself infected. But how? Can the mortophilia gene spread through other vectors? Is it a case of cross-pollination? And now that I'm thinking about it, that's a seriously disturbing thought.
Kiss me, fat boy!
Before Walden can inject himself, he's impaled by none other than a grotesquely transformed Leonard Friedman, who is enraged at seeing his brother's death. At this point, the crew takes some time to prepare, then enters the chamber to face off with Leonard. Kenny and Ashley rush in to attack the Rudy tendrils, avoiding the instant death mist cloud by standing in the patches of sunlight that appear as the roof begins to collapse. Once Leonard is dealt with, the crew ascends into the gymnasium, the place where it all began, and injects themselves with the cure. And then, Leonard comes back for round 2. He'll smack them around quite a bit, but if they can hold out long enough, the sunlight will do its job and finally put an end to Leonard Friedman. The group takes comfort in each other after surviving the night. The sun shines bright, the roots begin to fade, and bam, sequel bait. Yep, there is a sequel to this game, Obscure 2, or Obscure the Aftermath. It's similar to Obscure, but it's more story-focused, and if a character dies, that's game over. It's also said to be glitchy and unpolished in comparison, but it does feature a goth Shannon, so it might be worth it just for that. There's also a spin-off called Final Exam, but no one talks about that one. It's a completely different type of game, and, well, overall, not great, or so I've been told. So overall, Obscure was a real gem. Its survival horror themes are similar to the early Resident Evil games and other titles from around that time, with fixed camera angles to give it that classic feel. But what really sets it apart is that it's available not just for single player, but also for co-op. Truly a standout feature. It stayed in the shadows for a long time, but recently I've heard more people talk about it. Personally, I have vague memories of hearing about it back in the day, but it barely blipped my radar since I was obsessed with the MMO Final Fantasy XI, and of course Half-Life 2, and GTA San Andreas came out that same year, and I was busy. But hey, I played it now, and I think I really would have liked it back then too. It's weird, a little schlocky, and it hit me hard with nostalgia for an era that we'll never see again. That truly was a time to be alive. So really, all that's left to say is, hey, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, you are the GOAT. If you like what you saw, give me a good old thumbs up. Comment if you have anything to say, even if it's just a hello. Those do help the channel out. And subscribe to keep up with future uploads. Be sure to check out my Twitter and or Discord, links are in the description. And thanks again everyone for watching. You're the best, and I'll see you again on The Midnight Goat.